Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen.
Hello.
We are joined today by a fellow surrogate. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
I'm located in North Carolina. I am married for how many years now? Over 10, maybe 11, maybe 12. I don't know. We've been together close to 15 years now. We have 2 children. I have done 1 surrogacy, and I have matched for my 2nd journey.
Good for
Oh
you.
my gosh, how exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. So, big question. How'd you find out about surrogacy?
Probably the same way a lot of people in my generation did. Phoebe on Friends.
Sure, we love her.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So when you grew up, and you had your children and your family was complete, were you just like, oh, were you just watching the episode one day and was like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea?
It was always in the back of my mind. Especially after my first daughter, I had a really smooth pregnancy, no complications, both very healthy, except that I had her at 35 weeks.
Oh.
So
Did you run into problems for an agency to take you because you had her at 35?
Yes and no. So after I had her, I kind of knew that surrogacy was not going to be available as an option for me because I'd had her so early. Keep in mind, she was totally healthy, 6.5 pounds, needed no assistance, never went to the NICU. She was born. They looked at her, handed her right back to me, and were like, you can go home. And she's never been back to a hospital since.
Okay.
But then I was like, no one's gonna look at my records and say, let's give it a shot. So moved on with my life. Several years later, my husband and I were discussing, are we done growing our family? Do we want one more? And it was kind of like, we're coming up on our daughter being 5 years old. If we're gonna have one more, like, it's now or never. So we did decide to have a second child, and got pregnant fairly quickly. And that was another easy, smooth, uncomplicated pregnancy. And I had her at 37 weeks. Which, depending on who you ask, full term.
Yeah.
And she was just shy of 8 pounds.
Wow.
Same thing, very healthy, no NICU time, no complications.
God, you've grown big.
Yeah, I grow up big and I grow quick.
Yeah,
good.
But no gestational diabetes, no signs of labor. I also have precipitous labor, so as soon as labor starts, it's go time. And so I had been to my appointments before both births, and there were no signs of labor. So they thought I was going a full 40 both times and did not. So after I had my daughter, while I was still on maternity leave with my second, I started looking into surrogacy. I was like, I had another amazing pregnancy. I'm done. We knew our family was done after 2. We did not want to be outnumbered. And so I said, I thought another thing in me, let's see if I can do this. And basically anybody who heard I'd had a 35-week child was like, absolutely not. Right. But I had one agency that was like, you know what? Send us your records. Let's take a look.
Ooh.
And they were like, everything looks great. You had healthy pregnancies. Babies were healthy. We might be able to find a clinic to work with you. And they actually found 2 clinics that would approve me. One was Fertility Center of San Diego, I think. San Diego Fertility Center. And there was Fertility Center of Las Vegas. So 2 pretty popular, well-known clinics for surrogacy. And so, yeah, I mean, IP's new, and they were totally fine. They're like, yeah, if babies are healthy, then that's all that matters. And so we went from there. So I was 4 months postpartum with my second when I started the paperwork.
Okay.
And I wanted to ease into it, and I let my agency know, like, I'm not in a rush.
Okay.
I had planned to breastfeed for the first year of my daughter's life. There was a formula shortage. It was during COVID.
Wow.
And it was just, something, and when getting through the winter and, cold and flu season, wanted to keep her as healthy as possible. I want to keep myself healthy. So I was just, let's ease into it. So we slowly did record reviews and background checks and drug screens and all that good stuff. And about 6 months after I started the process, I had the match meeting that I ended up doing a journey with. So
she's not quite, your second daughter's not quite a year yet then, right? Or
my second daughter's she's 2.5.
But when you had your match meeting, she's not quite a year?
Oh, yes. She was 10 months. Yep.
Okay. Did you have a wish list? of like IPs or an IP that you wanted, that you were interested in?
I really didn't.
Yeah.
No, I'm kind of a research person, but surprisingly, like with surrogacy, I was kind of winging it. I was just like, let's see, let the chips fall where they may, and let's just see how this unfolds.
Okay.
They had the first profile they sent me. I was like, yeah, sounds like you're a good couple. Let's match and have a meeting. And ultimately, we did not end up meeting. They were in the process of creating embryos, and they had some bumps in the road, and kind of were just like, you know what, we're not ready for a match yet. And so the second profile they sent me, I was like instantaneous. This is my couple. I love them so much. I need to meet them. And so we had our match meeting in March of 2022. And within the meeting, and they're not supposed to ask you during the meeting if you want to match.
Yeah.
You have to like go your separate ways,
Right.
think about it, and then email and say like, yeah, I'm interested in matching. No, in the meeting we were like, we're matched. Like this is it. We're doing it.
That's sweet.
I didn't know it at the time, but they had recorded the match meeting. Just like for their own records, they very meticulously documenting their surrogacy journey to their child. And so after baby was born, we watched the match meeting back together, and it was just kind of precious to see where it all started.
That's cool. What kind of IPs are they? Same-sex male? Is that what
They
I got?
are, and they're French. Yep,
Oh, French.
So are they? So they're from Europe.
they are. Yeah. So after the first couple I looked at didn't work out, I had said to the agency, what is your most common demographic served? Like, who do you have the most of that are waiting? And they had said French gay couples. And I was just like, send me one. Let me take a look who you got. And it was the most perfect. I could not have imagined a better match. So they nailed it. Like from the jump, nailed it. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
So hold on. So you were given profiles. Your profile wasn't given out. Right.
It was both.
It was both. Okay.
So they sent me their particular profile after I said, hey, send me some folks that have been waiting.
Oh, okay.
And then they had seen my profile. They had 2 potential surrogate matches in the past, and their clinic would not approve them for various interesting reasons. Yeah. And then they had seen my profile, and they were like, we'd really love to meet Ashley. And I had already seen their profile and loved them. And so yeah, they were very excited to know that I wanted to meet them. And like, it was so instantaneous during the meeting. I immediately felt so comfortable with them. And was just like, I love them. I want to help make their family. So
was there a language barrier? Did one of them or both of them speak a little English?
One of the dads speaks English. I'd say he's like proficient. Okay. But primary for both is French, and then the dad that also speaks English also speaks Spanish. Oh, wow. And so yeah. Nice. So we did have someone from the agency that's like a French liaison help with interpreting and translation during that match meeting, and in subsequent really important meetings. But we ultimately did like WhatsApp and used Google Translate. And I was a little nervous, but it was not as big of a barrier as I had anticipated. So for anybody who's thinking about an international couple that's non-English speaking, go for it. It's not as bad as you might think.
I mean, nowadays they have so much help. Like, there's so much help for like on the phone where it's just like, what does this mean? And like, I know WeChat changes things. But you might have used WhatsApp as
we just use WhatsApp and Google Translate. And then I was a little nervous when they had gotten here into the US because we wouldn't have like the time to translate a text or anything like that. But it was not an issue. It was just there was such like an innate connection that we don't know. We just found a way to make it work. Like we were just communicating, and it worked really well.
That's very cool to hear. So how long from match meeting till you transfer?
It was from March until November. So because in March, my daughter was not quite a year yet. So they knew that I wanted to finish breastfeeding. I had to, the clinic's like, you need to be done. So we stopped breastfeeding right at 1 year at the end of May. Okay. And then I still had not had 2 consecutive cycles. So the clinic said, we need you to have 2 cycles before we can bring for med clearance. And so it was July that I had med clearance. So we matched in March, med clearance was in July. Clearance came back fairly quickly. And then August into September, we did contracts. And then end of September into October, we did meds.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty quick timeline
It
still.
is, considering you were
Yeah.
finishing breastfeeding and had to have 2 consecutive cycles. It wasn't like people were hung up
Yeah.
in contracts. It was,
Yeah.
there was
That's
stuff
phenomenal.
going
Yeah.
on. So
Well, part of the waiting for my cycle to return naturally was I had an IUD. So I was on my 3rd IUD. I had an IUD pre-kids,
Okay.
after my first daughter, and after my second daughter.
ah,
And so, because like I said, we knew we were done building our family. We didn't want any surprises. And so even though I was pursuing surrogacy, I still wasn't trying to be pregnant at that time. And so I had an IUD. And once I matched, then I got my IUD out. So a combination of I'd been on the IUD and I was still breastfeeding. It did take close to 4 months for my cycle to come back. Well, to have enough to have 2.
yeah.
But after that, it went fairly quickly.
Okay. And do they come stateside to, well,
They
which
did not.
clinic? Which clinic did you choose? Nevada or
Oh, well, we went. Their embryo was at Fertility Center of Las Vegas.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
they
a fun
were
trip.
wonderful. Yes.
Yeah.
The clinic was amazing. I mean, I had such
Good.
a smooth journey. Like,
Oh, that's
there's
great.
really nothing that I would have changed, but the clinic was phenomenal. Communication was amazing. We didn't have to make any adjustments with medications.
Great.
I was worried about the distance with the IPs, the distance with the clinic, but it really went so smoothly. Like, I just would not have changed anything.
So
And
did
you
meet-
transferred one embryo,
We did, yeah.
and it took the first time.
It did. I
Yay!
did not know it at the time.
Okay.
And it's wild to look back on this and be like, Ashley, how did you not know? I did not know until the baby was like a week old. I was visiting them at their Airbnb. I'm holding the baby. And one of the dads made like a very offhand comment about, and she was our one embryo. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Oh,
It's a lot of pressure on your uterus.
It's a lot of pressure.
I had no idea. I had no
Wow.
idea. They thought that I knew. I had no idea. And
I would have wanted
But
to
you
know.
didn't.
Yeah.
and in hindsight, I'm so glad I didn't, honestly.
Yeah.
But there were so many reasons that I feel like I should have known along the way, and I just didn't. And one of them was, I remember at my med clearance appointment, my feet are in the stirrup. I am with the fertility doctor, and I'm like, I made a stupid joke. I said, "Are we putting all their eggs in my one basket?" And she was like, "Let me look." She's on her computer typing away. She's like, "No, they've got plenty." I'm like, okay, I feel a little better about that.
Okay.
And so I'm like, did they really? Did she
Yeah.
think they did? Was she just like wanting me to be a more relaxed surrogate?
Interesting.
And then our contract was for up to 3 transfers. So one would think,
Yeah.
oh, they've got at least 3 embryos.
Right.
No, just the
Wow.
one. So, and it's really interesting. And a lot of this I did not know until they were here and maybe had been born. And, we were just spending so much time together and just talking about everything from our different perspectives.
Yeah.
But they started their embryo process in March 2020. And so they were planning to fly to the US to go to the clinic in Las Vegas and create their embryos. But they couldn't come to the US. And so they went to Spain.
Okay.
One of the dads gave a sperm sample. Spain then sent it to the Fertility Center in Las Vegas. They had a US egg donor, anonymous.
Okay.
And then created the sperm was frozen in Spain, flown to the Las Vegas. The egg had been frozen. They thaw both. They create embryos. They went from like 28 eggs to like 3 embryos.
Whoa.
Tested them all, and only one tested normal.
And that was her.
And that was her.
Oh, goosebumps everywhere. Get
Yeah.
out of here.
And I had no idea.
Thank God you didn't. Because seriously,
know.
what
I say
pressure?
it now, like going into it more educated this time, I want to know.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I didn't. And they were just shocked because they were like, the agency knew, the clinic knew, we thought you knew. And I'm like, no, and I don't, and I'm not upset with them for so early in that journey. If you match through an agency, there's just not a ton of communication between the surrogate and the IPs that early on. And so and during our match meeting, like we didn't even really talk about embryos. I was like, as long as your embryos are tested, we're fine. Like that just, increases the chances of a successful, healthy pregnancy and, a successful delivery. And that was all that was important to me. And so we just didn't talk about the specifics of the one.
So funny.
My
So
God.
do they come to the States at any time before the birth or just for the birth?
Just for the birth.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. So you just update them after appointments and
we talked regularly. We FaceTime during important appointments. heartbeat confirmation. My mom went with me to the anatomy scan, so that she could hold the phone, so that I wasn't trying to hold the phone and move around the table, so they could get all the pictures. And then after every appointment, I would send them a video of the heartbeat. It felt really bad because they were very anxious. Obviously, like I didn't know it was their one embryo, but they did.
Wow.
And they were wanting like more updates, and I was just like, I'm so sorry, my pregnancies are so boring. Like I don't have anything to
That's
give
so
you. Like
good.
and I was trying to like
Good.
emphasize like she's good, I'm good. I
Yeah.
wish I had more for you. So I tried to talk about like the cravings. I would send picture, we did a Thursday bump picture every week. I would tell them what I was craving, just to, find ways to include them in the pregnancy.
Aw.
And the craziest thing, when they told me that, the first thing I thought back to when they're like, she was our one embryo, when I went out to the clinic for transfer. So the first thing is we had to postpone transfer by 5 days because the clinic wanted my lining to be a 10.
Okay.
Which is pretty big from what I understand. A lot of clinics are like 7 or 8 is fine. I was at an 8.5. They wanted a 10.
You were already at an 8.5 and they wanted 10.
I was at an 8.5, and Las Vegas was like, no, girl, you need to thicken up. And I was like, all right. I had not done any research about how to thicken up your uterine lining. So I was heartbroken because our original transfer date would have made the due date my birthday.
Aww.
And I just was like, how cool would it have been if the due date was my birthday, right?
That's cool.
So they ended up saying like, we're gonna push back transfer. We don't know how long. And this was on like a Thursday, and I was supposed to like go a few days later.
Okay.
So they said, well, go to your local monitoring clinic on Monday, see where you're at, and we'll decide from there.
Okay.
Well, all weekend I did hot yoga. I was doing walks. I had the heating pad on my uterus. I was eating the things and drinking the things you're supposed to do to thicken up. So I went to my appointment. I want to say it was on Halloween, and they were like, she's at 10.3. It's great. We're good to go. We're moving forward with transfer. And so I just kept with the progesterone and the med cycle to kind of hold everything where it was. Flew to Vegas on a Sunday. We were going to do a Monday transfer, go to the clinic Monday morning, ultrasound, blood work. Everything's great. We're a go. Thaw the embryo. They thaw the embryo, and she is not thawing and moving quick enough. And we can't transfer today. We're postponing another 24 hours.
Yikes.
And I had not heard that this could happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't know at this time. That's their only embryo.
Right.
And they're on holiday in France.
Oh my gosh.
An absolute wreck. They're telling me after the fact, like, we didn't sleep. We were so upset. We were so distraught. We thought she was gone. But apparently this happens. And sometimes they say, they said she was just a little sleepy, needed some time to wake up.
Yeah.
So we just postponed 24 hours. I went back the next day.
Okay.
And we transferred, and I had a positive on day 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long did you stay in Vegas? Did they let you come right home, or were you there a whole nother night?
I went home the next day. So went Sunday. Original transfer was Monday, pushed it to Tuesday, flew home Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
no
I think
bed rest, no like.
They were just like, take it easy. Like, don't
easy.
go out and do jumping jacks or anything, but just live your life, which I was 20 minutes from the strip, and I, was relying on Ubers to get places. So I didn't do anything. I just laid in bed and watched TV and read books, which as a mom of 2 who worked full time was amazing.
It's like a mini vacation.
It's amazing.
So nice, right?
And people, the agency was trying to get me to take somebody with me. And I was just like, I thrive on alone time. I will be fine by myself. And so I did transfer by myself. The dads were on FaceTime. They were in tears. It was beautiful. And I'm just kind of sitting here like, I think I'm pregnant. This is, it's kind of a surreal moment right after transfer. And so they were like, how do you feel? And I was like, I have to pee.
Oh yeah.
You gotta have that full bladder.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were texting me, and they were just like, we're so excited to be at this point. Like, we can't wait to see what the future holds. And then I said, do you want me to test early, or do you want to wait for beta? And they were like, we would love for you to test early. So at day 4, I started testing. I had the faintest positive you have ever seen. Like,
but it was
splinter in the right light, but it was there. And it just kept getting darker and darker. I think it was day 7. I had it on the digital. But the
Wow.
first, and I didn't tell them immediately because
Oh,
I was
you
like,
didn't?
I want something darker. I want
Okay.
something like absolutely concrete. You can see it. This is not a maybe.
Yeah.
So it was like day 6 where I was like, I had 2 clear lines and
Okay.
I sent it to them thinking they're going to be like, oh my gosh, we're pregnant.
Yeah.
They're like, what does this mean? We've never
Oh,
taken a pregnancy test.
oh, so sweet. So
Of course, you're 2 guys. Of course, you haven't taken a
Yeah.
pregnancy test. And I was like, it means you're pregnant. And they were like, that moment of excitement. So I think that's like one of my favorite parts of surrogacy is like you get to announce those moments for someone else and just be such a big part of their story. And like a little glimpse into their world. So like in the grand scheme of things, it's like your time as a surrogate was just a blip in their lifespan, but it's such a big part of that story. So that's one of my favorite moments is when I got to tell them that they were pregnant and they didn't realize that's what I was telling them.
Aw. So this pregnancy is uncomplicated, no gestational diabetes, kind of like your first 2.
It was
Good.
so boring.
That's what everybody wants though in a surrogate journey. You didn't have a hematoma, nothing like that.
Yeah.
You didn't have any?
I did not have morning sickness or any spotting with my own pregnancies.
Nice.
I had some spotting the very first monitoring appointment. And I was very nervous because I had not experienced that previously.
Right.
What I did not realize was that I had the flu. And I was dehydrated. I knew I was dehydrated because I couldn't keep anything down, but I'm thinking this is morning sickness. Like I was told symptoms can be different in a pregnancy. This is morning sickness. Like this is the price you pay for having had 2 nice pregnancies before. You're going to suffer this one. No, I had the flu and I honestly was blissfully unaware and I did not realize it was the flu until 3 days later. My oldest daughter was really sick and took her to the doctor and she tested positive for flu. And it was like 30 minutes later, it dawned on me. I was like, I had the flu.
Yeah. Wow.
So thank goodness after I cleared the flu, I was totally fine. No issues in early pregnancy. But yeah, it was such just a straightforward, beta was looking good. Ultrasounds were good at 6.5 weeks. We saw gestational sac and the fetal pole and a heartbeat at 6.5 weeks. So we couldn't hear it, but we saw it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. And so from there on, just going to my appointments and updating on heartbeat, and she was growing right on track.
So are they worried that it's going to not go to 40 given your 2 children or?
No, they were
okay.
so calm and I mean, maybe they were, I don't know. They didn't tell me.
Well, not even necessarily them, but the clinic and your monitoring.
No, they were just like, if she goes early, she goes early. It's probably going to be a big, healthy baby like hers, big for gestational age.
Yeah.
And so when we did contracts, the initial contract draft said at least one of the parents needs to be in North Carolina at the day she hits 38 weeks.
38.
I made 2 edits to that contract, and one of them was I sent it back and I said, one of you needs to be here at 37 weeks because my longest pregnancy was 37 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not going home with the baby, so you need to be here. And then, they got here at 37 weeks in a day. And they did, yeah. And what was really cool is the day they landed was 1 year from my med clearance appointment. So to kind of put in perspective how fast it went.
Yeah.
So they're 37 weeks in a day. They showed up. I am 1.5 centimeters dilated, 60% effaced. My midwife is just like, any day now, you can go home and do all the things.
Okay.
I had never done all the things because I was never, thinking today's, I'm trying to keep the baby in, not have the baby yet.
Right.
So it was so cool to be like, okay, I'm safe. The parents are here. Like I had 3 goals for this pregnancy and that was one of them. I want the parents here.
Yeah.
So they went and just immediate sigh of relief. I was convinced I was having that baby that weekend. I got here on a Friday. I'm not going to work next week. I'm having this baby. My body has started the process. I was so confident. Monday rolls around. I show up to work and everybody's like, where's the baby? And I'm just like, I don't know. Don't talk to me. I'm still so pregnant. And remember, this is July in the South pregnant. I cannot stand to be outside. I am so swollen. I have no shoes that fit me. I look like a mess. And I'm just like, I'm just ready to have this baby.
Yes.
And so I went another 12 days. It was my longest pregnancy by 12 days. I went to 38 weeks and 6 days.
Jeez Louise.
Wow.
And I had begged my midwife for intervention, and I've never
Oh.
been induced, never had intervention. And I just remember like sobbing because I was like, they're here, they're ready, they're waiting, they want to meet their kid. Like, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. It's time. And in my back of my mind, there's that pressure from that timeline
Yeah.
because they can't get birth certificate, social
Right.
security card, passport until she is born.
Correct.
So I'm like, I don't like, they're only planning to be here 6 weeks. I don't want, 3 or 4 of those weeks for me to still be pregnant. I had them here early because I thought my body was going to do what it has been doing, which is have babies earlier.
Oh.
And so I was a little frustrated, and they were so anxious, and every day, any signs of labor, any signs of labor. And I was just like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there are no signs. I mean, there are signs, but are there really? Like, things can happen and then they stop, and I was just like, my only signs of labor are my water breaks and contractions. And then it's boom, a baby is born. So it's just like, there's no, like, you're not going to have notice ahead of time. So
Is that how it worked? Because that's how it worked for your biological kid. So is that how it worked for your surrogate baby too?
yes. Oh, and
Okay.
so my second goal for this pregnancy was to have the baby in a hospital.
Okay.
So for my second daughter, I made it to the hospital with 15 minutes to spare. I got there, and then 15 minutes later, she was born. And I was really nervous this time. I was just like, I took it very seriously, not to travel too far from the birthing hospital.
Yeah.
And typically I like to labor at home for a little bit, but after my second pregnancy, I was only in labor for 2.5 hours, got to the hospital, 15 minutes later, she's out.
Wow.
I'm like, I can't play it fast and loose with this one. As soon as I have either contractions or my water breaks, I've got to get to this hospital.
Yeah.
So I had gone to it was technically my 39-week appointment, but it was at 38.5 weeks just because everybody was pregnant. My midwife was, trying to squeeze in as many people as she could. And she was like, you're still 1.5 centimeters, 60% of face. So for like 3 weeks, I had not shown any progress.
Wow.
And I was so confident going in. I'm like, I'm gonna be like 3 centimeters. We're gonna be so good. Nothing. And I'm just like, I'm so stubborn about this. I have had the dates. I've been walking. I've been bouncing. I've been eating spicy food constantly. And she's not budging. And I'm just like, I know she's over 8 pounds. Get out of me, child. Your dads are here. They want to see you. Nothing. So at my 39-week appointment at 38.5 weeks, I bullied my midwife into letting me have a membrane sweep.
There you go.
Like, please help me.
Aww.
She's like, we really don't do intervention until 41 weeks. I was like, no.
Oh.
They got here at 37. We are not waiting 4 weeks for this baby. She is ready. I am ready.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, let me talk to the team. And the team was like, under the circumstances, we will allow intervention because this is a little abnormal. Like, there are parents waiting, and they have a timeline, and we do feel that this is a healthy pregnancy and could withstand a membrane sweep. Like, that's the lowest of intervention, right?
Okay.
My midwife says, within 48 hours it will work. If 48 hours goes by, it didn't work, I'm so sorry. Like, you're gonna have to wait.
Okay.
I want to say 43 hours later, my water broke.
There you go.
Oh my
I
God.
was so irritated those 2 days though. That Monday, because it was a Monday and then a Tuesday went by. Nothing. I had stopped working at 38 weeks, so I had like a full week off before she was born, which is really nice if you can do that. My 2 pregnancies and my daughters, I worked up until I went into labor, but again, I had them early, so I wasn't expecting it. I'd never been quite that pregnant before. I had a week off to myself, which was really helpful mentally, to kind of be prepared, to be away from work and have some time to myself. But yeah, so all 3 pregnancies, very fast. I think collectively across all 3, I've been in labor 16 hours.
Wow. So when your water breaks on this one, what time of day is it?
3 a.m.
Oh, yeah. So
my water has broken first all 3 pregnancies. And I know that's super rare, but every single time water breaks first.
There you go. So do you call them and then everybody meets at the birthing hospital?
Yeah, so 3 a.m. we had kept taking bets on when's baby going to be born, when's baby going to be born. And one of the dads had said, I think Tuesday night going into Wednesday, she's going to be born.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's great. Any day, like,
yeah, anything, I'll take it.
Funny.
So 3 a.m., July 19th, I am in my bed. I got heartburn. I am swollen, I'm uncomfortable, I cannot sleep, pregnancy insomnia. So I'm just kind of laying there wide awake. My husband had gotten home from work, fall asleep on the couch, had just come upstairs. And so I'm just kind of talking to him about how I'm like, this baby needs to make her move, get out of here, let's move. I can't do this much longer. And he's like, yeah, I know you're miserable. Like, it'll happen when it needs to happen.
Wow.
So he had laid his head down and been asleep maybe 10 minutes. And I just feel the,
Wow.
and I could just, my water broke. And I'm like, oh, he's like, what? I'm like, my water broke. And he's like, did it really? And I'm like, I don't know, roll me over. So he kind of pushes me and I feel it keep coming. And I'm like, yeah, no, my water broke. And
That's a fun trick.
Yeah. So I ran to the bathroom and it's gushing everywhere. And I have my phone and I text the dads and I'm like, wake up, it's your daughter's birthday. My water broke. And immediately, wow, this is crazy. What do we do?
Wow.
And
So
I'm
they
just
were paying attention.
Yeah.
At 3 a.m.
Well, and what's so interesting is that the entire time they'd been in the States waiting, on baby watch, they had their volume on their phone at night, thinking we need to be aware of when Ashley calls. Well, their friends and family are in France. They're 6 hours ahead. They're calling and texting constantly, not aware of what time it is in the US, but they always slept through it. But for whatever reason, I send that text. One of the dads immediately sees it. And he said he didn't even read it. He just saw that it was me and he knew it was the middle of the night. And he was like, it's baby time.
So cute.
So he's like, what do I do? And at this point, I'm on the phone with my mom. So I call her and she's like, oh, what's happening? What? Like very disoriented. And I'm like, Mom, my water broke. It's time. I need you to get here with the girls. So she's about 25 minutes away. So she gets in her car and she's hightailing it over to my house. I'm very calm and my husband's like, what do you need me to do? And I'm like, my bag is packed. It's in the car. Like, I'm going to just get ready. I curled my hair, washed my face, I put new contacts in. I was like, just kind of relaxed because I got time. I got to wait for my mom to get there anyway.
Yeah.
So I told the dads, I said, meet me at the hospital at 4 a.m. Give me an hour for my water to break all the way until we get to the hospital. I need an hour. They're like, we'll be there. Okay. Pretty sure they were there before me.
Yeah.
They had done like a practice route from their Airbnb to the
hospital. So cute.
Just they want to make sure they knew where it was.
Yeah.
And so got to the emergency room. And they're like, what can we do for you? As if it's not like obvious and someone's very pregnant and they waddle in. And I'm like, I'm here to have a baby. They're like, oh, you have a scheduled induction. I was like, no, I'm in labor.
Yeah.
And so they kept me in triage. And I told them, I said, I have precipitous labor. I typically just go straight up to labor and delivery. They're like, you look fine. And I'm just like, you don't know. This is my third. Like, you don't know. All right, if you say so. So unfortunately in triage, they don't let anybody come in with you except your person. So my husband was with me and the dads couldn't come into the hospital until I was up in the labor and delivery room. They had me in triage for like an hour. I mean, it's like 5 o'clock and I'm like, I gotta go. Like, and they check me and they're like, you're only out of 4. And I'm like, yeah, but when I hit 7, we got 10 minutes.
Is this your usual hospital?
It is. All 3 I've had at the same hospital.
Then that's weird because you've been there.
Well, and I pre-registered, so they knew I was coming. I had requested like a French interpreter. I had let them know it's a surrogacy. I had given them the pre-birth order. Like, we were prepared.
Yeah.
And they were just taking their sweet time. And like, I don't request any pain management because they're so quick. So even if I had, like, by the time I get it, it's too late anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think they just thought like I was super calm during all of this, but like, you kind of know like how your body's working and what to expect and your pain management techniques. And for me, I tried the comb technique this time, which I really liked, squeezing the comb.
A comb?
Yeah. So you hold a comb in the palm of your hands and you squeeze it really tight.
Okay.
And so the way the nerves in your body work, up and down your spine, if you can cause some kind of like light pain distraction above your uterus, it will kind of distract from the pain below it. So by drawing my body's attention to the pain in my hand by squeezing the comb, it lessens the pain of the contractions.
Cool.
And it reminded me to breathe through it because it really does help if you breathe through it. You're not holding your squeezing the whole time. So breathing and holding the comb worked really well for me this time. So yeah, about 5 a.m. they sent me up to labor and delivery.
Okay.
And I told the dads, I was like, great, I got a room, come on up. And I don't know where they were, but they were around the hospital and they were trying to find the room and they couldn't quite find it. And I get up in the room, I'm getting comfortable, I've got my gown on, and I'm like, I gotta pee. And they're like, okay, just don't push. And this is the same thing that happened with my second pregnancy. I went to the bathroom, I sat down, and I was like, I don't have to pee, I have to push.
Yeah.
Like, you're at a 10, you're like, you're ready, let's go.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, the dads aren't here. They're in the hospital, but they're not in the and I looked at the one of the nurses, I was like, you find them right now, because they didn't go this far. Wait this long to be in the hospital and not in this room.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay,
100%.
we're going to find them. And I'm calling them on WhatsApp, and my contractions are one on top of the other now. I am holding this baby in.
Oh,
Get here, please. They walk in, I lock eyes, and I'm like, get ready to meet your baby.
oh my gosh.
Oh,
They don't have
that's
any
cute.
time to prepare or nothing. They're just like, what?
No. And what's so funny is, like, they had texted family back home, because by then it was like, 9 something. No, it was like 11, almost lunchtime in France. So they're telling their moms, like, baby's on the way. And they're like, you got all day, go out to get a shower, go to breakfast. Like, labor's a whole day ordeal. And they're like, Ashley said it's not, we got to get there.
Yeah. Funny.
And they were like, and moms are like, isn't she going to get an epidural? And I was just like, I've never had one. I'm kind of terrified of them.
And you go quick.
Yeah, like, I just have not been interested in one. I'm stubborn, but I think, like, if I had long labors, I absolutely would do some more pain management. But for me, it's like, I can do anything for a short amount of time, and I know, and I just kept telling myself, it's not for forever. This will be over. Like, you will be out of pain as soon as the baby's born. You can do this, and I just kind of walk myself through that. But yeah, they just barely made it to the room. It was time to push, and she was born. And we had, in our birth plan, decided which dad was going to hold her first, which was going to cut the umbilical cord.
Okay.
We decided to do delayed cord clamping.
Okay.
And when she was born, the midwife was holding her and was like, all right, here, dad. And he was like, no, Ashley. And so I held her for the first 5 minutes until we decided it was time to cut the cord. They wanted to wait until the cord was done pulsing. But we were like 5 minutes in, and that sucker was still going.
Wow.
And it was the biggest cord I've ever seen. And the nurses were just like, it's huge. We've never seen an umbilical cord that large. And so it was going to take a while. And I was just like, it's been 5 minutes. Like, it's time. Go ahead and cut it. One of the dads cut it, and I got to hand her to him.
Aww.
Such a beautiful moment. Like, that is what it's all about. That's why we do this. So we can get a front row seat to that moment. And it's just the best.
Did they melt? Did they just melt?
They were, one of the dads was like pacing in the corner in tears, and I thought he was just so emotional about the moment. And we were talking about it later, and he was like, no, you were screaming, you were in pain, I was worried for you. And I had warned them, like, preparing them for the birth, and I was just like, my pain management is oftentimes screaming, but I'm telling you in advance, I'm okay. This is me, like, letting out that energy. It's very primal. Like, I would give birth out back in the woods if I could, but I don't think that you would allow that. We have contractual obligation to be in a hospital. So we're gonna do this, the very medical way. But I'm gonna be yelling. And they were like, okay, but I just don't think they were quite prepared for that. And there's like a little little French doors in the room, and like the baby bassinet is behind there, and the warming station and all of that. And so they were kind of like huddled behind there while I'm pushing. And one of the nurses was like, did you want them here? And I was like, oh yeah, front and center, get out here. Your baby. You need to be here. Like, oh my God. Like, I've had this easy pregnancy, and you kind of have like a little bit of guilt. Like, man, like, I've had an easy pregnancy. Like, I don't want them to think that this is so easy on me, right? Like, this is a big thing you're doing with your body for a long time. It is 24/7. And even before pregnancy, you're doing meds. You can't drink. You can't, you can't travel too far. You can't do that, all these things and restrictions. So, like, this is a big thing. And sometimes I think surrogates make it look so easy. And even when it's easy, it's still hard. Even the easiest pregnancies, the easiest journeys are still difficult. And so I was like, I wanted them to be with me through my pain. to see, like, I may have made it look easy, but we're at the hard part now, and I need you to see me through it. And they did. They were right by my side. Amazingly enough, my husband was there for the whole birth, and I say that because we had a timeline. Both he and my mom had to work that morning by 8 a.m. And so my husband, in order to get both my kids ready, get them to school and daycare, and get to work 45 minutes away, he had to be out the hospital by 6 a.m. So she's born at 5:45 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
We don't exchange words. Baby's born. He's like, great. And then leaves.
Oh my
God.
So he gets back to my mom at my house with my kids, and she's like, how is Ashley? Is there a baby? He's like, yep, there's a baby. And then he's just like, sleep goes off to take a shower. My mom's like, all right, I'm leaving. So she leaves. She calls me at 6:30 and she's like, how are your contractions? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh,
because I'm like, she must know already because she just saw my husband, right?
yeah.
And she's like, yeah, how are the contractions? How are you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine. What? There's no contractions. She's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, she's born. She's 45 minutes old. My mom's like, there's no way. There's no way your labors keep getting faster. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm good. She's here. And my mom's
That's
like,
so cute.
no. So my husband was so casual about it. My mom didn't realize that I'd already given birth.
Gotta love men.
Yeah, no, he was just whatever. Like, I've seen her do this before. It's fine.
Right.
And that was part of the contract. They always talk about, like, do you want your partner there with you?
Yeah.
And then, we're still coming down from COVID, like,
Right.
hospital restrictions, who can be with you? And I was just like, honestly, like, I'm prioritizing the parent. And they're like, really? You don't want your husband there? I'm like, not really. Like, he's not, I mean, I don't want to be touched during labor and delivery.
Yeah.
I don't want an like, I am totally fine. Like, and this is, I mean, clinics and doctors and midwives and agencies, they're just like, you need a person. It's like, not everybody does. It's okay. And so really all he does during my labors, he's wonderful. If I asked for more, he totally would, but I just need someone to hold my water and give me sips between contractions. And I was like, either one of the dads can do that, a nurse can do that. So we kind of were just playing it by ear, like, whoever's available to take me to the hospital, like, whether it's like middle of the night, my mom can't make it, my husband's got to stay with the kids, call the dads, have them pick me up on the way. So it ended up working out that my husband was with me. But yeah, as soon as she was born, he's like, gotta go, taking care of my kids. So yeah, our goals were avoid induction, baby in a hospital, dad's present, and that's exactly how it happened.
That's awesome. So how long does everybody, do they get their own room, number one, and then number two, how long does everybody stay?
Yes, they did get their own room. I have a surrogacy friendly hospital. What I learned in this process is that North Carolina is incredibly surrogacy friendly. Had a pre-birth order that said they are the legal and rightful parents. We relinquished any parental rights we had. I had, my midwife was familiar with surrogacy. The hospital was surrogacy friendly. And what that means is just that they're prepared for a surrogate and intended parent. And in this case, intended parents get their own recovery room.
It's so nice.
I had talked to my midwife and she was like, how long do you plan to stay in the hospital? I said, if everything goes smoothly like it has before, I'd like to discharge as soon as possible. And I'm thinking 24 hours, right? Because when you're in the hospital, like, they're checking your vitals constantly. They're pushing on your uterus. Like, I'm thinking I have to be there 24 hours. Nope. They discharged me at noon.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Like noon. Wait, you were there for 6 hours.
Well, she was there since 4, so she was there for.
She had a baby 6 hours prior.
Maybe 6 hours old. They won't let the baby go at 6. They usually
at 24 hours. So they stayed. I left. I discharged right from labor and delivery. I didn't even go to a recovery room. I took a minute to.
Were you okay with that? Like, were you okay with that? Leaving that?
Yes, I was like, send me home as soon as possible. They would have let me stay, but I was like, put me in my bed, please. Like,
okay, that's fair.
I want to go home. I want to be in my bed, in my bathroom. Like,
okay.
I want to crawl into a hole and go through postpartum in all its glory in the comfort of my home.
Okay.
And so we'd already talked about it prior to, and I was like, I'm going home right after. So yeah, I stayed in the room with the parents from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and it was just the 3 of us. One of the dads, they took turns like leaving to like go get breakfast, go to the bathroom, that kind of stuff. So yeah, we had 4 hours, the 4 of us together, which was beautiful. We were like just so quiet and contemplative and just soaking it all in. And, they're telling family, they're taking pictures, they're doing skin to skin and just soaking it in.
Adorable.
And then around 10, they sent them to the recovery room.
Okay.
And then I had just under 2 hours to myself, and they would have let me go sooner, but my husband had gone to work. And so he worked for a few hours and then had to leave and come back. And so he was waiting for me to be like, okay, they're going to discharge you.
Okay.
So yeah, we went home at 12 and just kind of enjoyed the rest of the day, got the kids and went about our, and this was 2 days before my birthday. So we were not due on my birthday, but we were very, very close.
Very cool. And then they they stay for 24. Do they have to keep them longer?
They stayed for 24.
Okay.
She had no complications. She was 8 pounds, 10 ounces, 22 inches long. She was such a long baby. But she was perfect, like just so healthy, passed all her tests, no issues. So at 24 hours, they went ahead and sent them home.
And they had an Airbnb that they were staying in?
They did, yeah, just one town over, like 15 minutes from me. Yeah, and so the Airbnb host knew that that's why they were there, and so they'd already had a bassinet set up in there, and I had saved a bunch of stuff, just kind of intuitively for my youngest, like just left it in the house. I was like, if I become a surrogate and it goes well, I will go ahead and hand this off to the parents, because I don't want them to buy everything just for 6 weeks. They're not going to take it home with them to France. So I don't want them to spend all that money on stuff they only need for a few weeks. So yeah, I had saved an infant car seat, boppies, blankets. I had people donate diapers.
Sweet.
We had gotten a bunch of newborns. She wore them for like a week and then she was up and cute. And then some clothes, and yeah, so we had tons of stuff ready for them. And the Airbnb host had a bassinet for them, and so they were very comfortable in their house.
Very sweet.
Ashley, how old is your oldest at this point?
8. Well, 7. She was 7.
She was 7 at that point when the baby was born.
Mhm.
So how did she think? What did she think about her mommy being a surrogate?
Yeah.
She really enjoyed it. She thought it was so cool. She loves this one show that takes place in Paris. It's a kids show.
Was it Emily in Paris? Or no, that's an adult show. Is it Fancy Nancy?
No, it's Ladybug Girl.
I
talk about with Cat Noir. Yeah, so she loves that show. She knows it takes place in Paris, and so she was learning a lot about French culture, and so she's very excited. And so she was learning a little bit of French terms and researching things about the country. And so they made some of their dishes from home for us. One of the dads had a birthday while he was here, and so we had a banner that said happy birthday in French, and we put it up, and we were practicing with them. And so she was so excited. I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure how she would feel about the baby, but she was so good with her. Wanted to hold her, was feeding her, asking about her, gave her a nickname. Like, it was precious. I was really worried about my 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Because toddlers, when they see their mom holding another baby, it's like, no, that's my mom.
Yeah.
But it was not the case. She was like, nope, that's my baby. And so she was fighting her older sister to hold the baby and feed the baby. So they totally embraced it. My husband was fairly indifferent. He's a very background person. The strong silent type. And so he's just like, I'm here for the ride. Like,
wow.
Very supportive. Definitely got me like the meals in the middle of the night and that kind of stuff. But yeah, he was just like, you handle pregnancy really well. So, it's not a huge inconvenience in our daily lives. Like, you've got more appointments, and, you're going to have this random event of labor whenever baby decides to make her way here, that we'll have to deal with, as the time comes, whenever, you go into labor and have to go to the hospital. But beyond that, I mean, he was really supportive. My oldest loved it, loves the dads, loves the baby. My youngest, don't think she knew what was going on until I was very pregnant. And then she just loved the belly, was constantly laying on the belly, snuggling it, listening into the belly for the baby. And then when the baby was here, she was all about holding the baby and seeing the baby. So went really great, and my extended family was super supportive. My mom went with me to see the baby a few times. My grandmother came over for the birthday party for the dad. And then I was I was open with my friends and family and my acquaintances, like, you're gonna see me pregnant, it's not my baby. And everybody was very curious but so supportive.
Yeah.
And they were just like, thank you so much for educating, and
Awesome.
really surprised at how well received it was. Which is a good thing. You know, want to be
It is a good
surprised in
thing.
a happy
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
And I kind of thought during this journey, like, I was going to find people who were going to be surrogates, and I would get to, bring them into this sisterhood that is surrogacy. But it was really more people I didn't know were struggling with infertility who reached out to talk about going through the process of getting a surrogate. And I mean, you just don't know what people are going through when it comes to their families and expanding families and fertility. And so they were definitely like curious as potential IPs. And that was the part I was not expecting.
Yeah.
But
That's
that's so
pretty cool.
cool though, that they felt
Mhm.
comfortable, that you made a space comfortable enough that
Yeah,
was safe
for them
for
to reach
people to
out.
come and reach out to you,
Right.
because
Yeah.
that's
And so we
important.
had a lot of conversations about what to expect and the steps and what to look for in a surrogate, what to consider before you start that search for your surrogate,
Yeah.
questions to ask, and just really thinking about what relationship you want with your surrogate, local or long distance. Do you want to be at appointments, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I was expecting to just like find a bunch of women to be surrogates, and it was more like I was, helping IPs get comfortable with the process and seeing it from a surrogate perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, and these were couples I had no idea had struggled with infertility, and so
Oh.
that part was kind of like, well, I'm glad that you shared that part of your story with me, and that I could bring some perspective to this side of things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because now maybe they're a little bit more comfortable to go through surrogacy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not an easy decision, but I think once someone does go in 100% and they find a match and they can go on that journey together and there's open communication, like beautiful things can happen. And they
Yeah.
happen
Yeah.
all over the world. They've happened and they're going to continue to happen. But
Yeah.
it's people coming together to make families. It's
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
so, I hate to say it's so simple yet so complex, because it is.
Yeah,
It
it is.
is.
It
It
is.
is.
And then for every, I think it like the statistic is like for every 10 families that are looking for a surrogate, there's one surrogate.
Right?
And so
That's
it's
us.
just like, if you can, why not? And people are like, why are you doing it? I'm like, because I can. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I?
Right.
Right.
And am I affecting your life by doing it? No. So
Yeah.
my family has chosen to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then the couple that I just matched with, they were like, hey, why surrogacy? And I was like, why not? Like, I get to
Ah.
live my normal life. I get to be a mother, and I get to be wife, and I get to maintain my full-time job. And
Yep.
it doesn't take away from my life in any way. And it just adds so much to it. Like, it
Yep.
feels silly not to.
Yeah.
But I remember in the labor and delivery room during those few hours that the four of us were together, and we're just, kind of in that glowy, newborn life. And one of the dads looked at me and he was just like, are you going to do it again? And I was like, absolutely. And I was kind of just waiting for the labor and delivery experience, because like during the pregnancy, people say like, do you think you'll do it again? And for me, it was, up until this point in the pregnancy, as smooth and enjoyable as every step of the way has been, it's an absolute yes. But I just don't know what the future holds. And well, I'm on the other side of it now. And it was so easy. And then immediate aftermath, I was just like, sign me up, get, let's do
Right.
this.
Oh.
And then like those few weeks I'm with the parents, I'm helping them navigate, the post-birth order, the birth certificate, social security, passport, all that stuff. And then, just regular newborn life. Like, how do we burp her? And is she eating enough? And is this normal?
Yeah.
And I'm imagining a second family, and I can't picture it. It felt like cheating. I was like,
Oh.
how will I ever do this with another family? Like, these are my IPs. We are in a relationship. We have a bond, right?
Yeah.
So that people expect the attachment to the baby.
Yeah.
Not at all. She's cute. I adore her. Holding her is so fun. But here, take your baby back. This is your baby. I've had my babies. I'm all done.
Right.
The attachments with the parents, like
Yeah.
those are my besties, and now they've got to live, an ocean away. I can't stop in and have coffee. Like, I was going for a walk most every morning starting at a week postpartum, just for my mental health, get out in the morning while it's still cool enough before the humidity sets in and move my body. And I was out walking one day. Their Airbnb was across from a park, and they saw me and they texted me and they're like, "We see you walking, come for coffee after."
Oh, so
And it was just such like a casual relationship, like drop in coffee, snacks, hold a baby, watch a show. They were watching Emily in Paris in French. Um, and I was like, man, I'm gonna miss this when they leave. Like, there's not gonna be that casual drop in, come over for coffee, let's share dinner, and that was what I was gonna miss. So that was honestly the hardest part. Like, we were all a mess at the airport because it was just like, we're best friends now. And I kind of like the way that I describe that postpartum period, because it's postpartum, there are emotions, there are hormone changes, like there's no getting away from that. You will cry, and it doesn't mean you're a bad surrogate, it doesn't mean you're attached to the baby, it's just everything you feel so intensely in that first 6 weeks. You have no choice but to cry about it, everything, right? Like, oh, my clothes don't fit, and no, I don't have a baby with me, so people don't know why my clothes don't fit,
Right. Right.
And then you're in your feels about it. But it was just, it was the dads. I was like, man, like I have developed such a close relationship that I can't quite explain to anyone who's never gone through this before. And I can't just drop in for coffee, and I'm sad about that. And I mean, the 6-week mark comes around and that fog lifts and you start to, feel better about it. But so almost next week will be 5 months. And we're in such a good spot. I get so many photos, and I'm just like, if you ever worry that you're sending too many photos and videos, you're not. If you have 10 pictures and you think they're all amazing and they're only slightly different, I'm the one you can send them to every single time. I'm going to tell you, they're all amazing. She is gorgeous. You guys are amazing. You're doing great. And so I get to be that person for them now. And they recognize this was not just an Ashley thing. This was Ashley with the support of her family. So they brought gifts for me and my kids and my husband. They asked how they're doing. And it's just been such a beautiful relationship. And like, that is the attachment, is like, we're in this. And we knew going into it, we wanted to maintain that connection indefinitely. Their egg donor was anonymous. And so they wanted someone who was involved in this journey to be able to give some perspective to their daughter, because they're like, one day she's going to get older and she's going to realize, I've got 2 dads. Whose uterus?
How to get here?
And so they were just like, we want somebody who she can talk to, and it's talk about her pregnancy too. And I was like, I would love to, like, so it's kind of like an Aunt Ashley situation. And I could not have had a better journey. I loved every part of it. Even the postpartum part. But I was also super lucky. I had paid leave and short-term disability. So I took a full 12 weeks off. And I work in government, so it's not always heard of that you can do that, but they do support surrogacy. So I had full 12 weeks paid through my job, and I loved every moment of it. And then I was excited to go back because I enjoy what I do, and immediately was prepared to start the process of another journey, because I know it is a process. It takes time. So starting it kind of early on, postpartum, while I was on leave, getting the paperwork out of the way and the drug screen and all that, made sense before I went back to work. So I jumped right back in.
So is your new couple same sex, or
they are? So this time I was not kind of just open, send me whatever. It was very specific. I was like, a couple.
Sounds right.
And gay. They need to be gay men. And they were like, all right, well, you're kind of picky, but
no, you're not.
You're not being picky.
Well, and I think that was like the biggest difference in my going into it the second time was, I know what I want, and there's no reason for me to stray from that yet. I'm not saying I, won't be more flexible in the future, but like, I'm also not in a rush. I will wait for my couple. And that I tell anybody going into surrogacy, the match is the most important. It makes or your experience and your journey. 100%. Wait for your couple, and you will know when it's your couple. And if you're on the fence, it's not your couple. If you are having reservations. It's not your couple. You will know when it's your couple. And like I said, I knew instantaneously. I knew, and I was so lucky because I was the first match meeting, and I'm just like,
Oh,
was
no.
I just naive? No, it was beautiful. It was exactly how it was supposed to be. This time was a little rockier. They sent me profiles outside of my parameters, and I said no. And it was kind of
Good
like,
for
why?
you.
Why did you say no? And I was just like, because all the reasons I gave you, like, this doesn't fit. And it was the first couple. It was a gay male couple. Their families didn't know they were gay.
Ouch.
That's a lot.
And
I mean, to
yeah.
each their own, totally.
Right.
And I said, that's for them. It's not for me. I
Yeah.
don't want to be involved in the emotional mess that I
Yeah.
foresee could result from this. I don't want to be
Wow.
tangled in that.
Yeah.
I want, and I was very clear with my couples to have family or very close friend support. Surrogacy is a journey. And I also had said no single parent. And it has nothing, I'm not nothing against single parents. I believe everybody has the right to be a parent.
Yep.
My mother was a single parent, but I knew as a surrogate,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that one person. I needed to know that they had another person.
Yeah.
Support anything. And especially if they were international, I didn't want them to come alone and be a new parent in a new country by themselves. And so it was really important to me that they have an emotional buffer built in. And if you have a couple, they have each other. And they're not just like relying on their surrogate. Because, once the baby's born, that contract is like, you're not obligated to like spend time with them or the baby or anything like that, right? So I didn't need there to be that expectation built in unnecessarily. Yeah. And so I wanted it to be a very natural, organic development of a relationship. And I felt that buffer for me was making sure it was a couple. And so, yeah, the second one they sent me was a single dad. And I was just like, I said no.
But hey, good for you to stick into your guns, because a lot of the times I'm not dissing anybody, but a lot of the times they either won't have what we're looking for. So they're like, well, maybe we'll just send you, this person and like you'll match and like it'll be great. And
yes. And I kind of foresaw that that's what was happening. Yeah. And I think first time surrogate Ashley would have been like pulled at my heartstrings. Oh, yes, I'd love to meet them. And then it's like when you've met the couple, then or the person, you kind of feel like a jerk. Like if I met them and I'm saying no, like, but it was just, and I think I probably go, like, if I'd gotten too far into this, like, I probably would have at some point just been like, all right, like, whoever. Now I gotta stick like emotionally exhaustive, like seeing profiles and being like, oh, I don't want to be the one to tell them no. I want everybody to have their surrogate. But I kept reminding myself, like, the match makes the journey. And this is, I want another smooth journey. I've been so lucky, so blessed that every step of the way has been exactly the way we wanted it to go. And I have that hope for this second journey as well. And I know I can't repeat it exactly. So when I was kind of like another French gay couple, they're like, Ashley, they're not going to be the same IP. No, I know. Funny. But I feel like, my couple is still out there. And so, and I'm just like, I'm not even 5 months postpartum. Like, and I found the couple and
it's amazing.
So when will they let you transfer again? Does it have to be a year?
No. So the clinic won't look at my records as if my pregnancy history is going to change between, January and July, this past pregnancy. No, they want me to be 6 months postpartum when they look at the records from the newest pregnancy, because it's the same clinic. They know my first 2 pregnancies. Yeah. Sure. So they'll look in January and they say, yep, everything looks good. We'll schedule med clearance for my next cycle.
Okay. Gotcha.
Wow. Oh my God.
And I'll plan to use the same lawyer. Lawyer was amazing. Like every part was so smooth. So I'm just like, let's keep as much the same as we can.
You've given us a lot of information, like on I think, because one of our questions is what advice would you give someone who's looking to be a surrogate? And I think you've kind of hit a bunch of different ones, but what would be your one main? Is it the match?
It's the match. Yeah. It makes the journey. It does. And I think, and one of the reasons I wanted a gay male couple for my first journey is I knew emotionally in this journey, going through it the first time, I did not want to take on the emotional piece of someone's infertility.
Right.
Yeah. No one chooses surrogacy as their first option.
100%.
Yep.
And so I knew as a first time surrogate, I may not be emotionally in a place to handle the emotions of another person that has gone through infertility trying to be pregnant.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for the dynamic of woman to woman, you're carrying the baby that I should be carrying.
Yeah.
And it's not to say I won't consider, working with a woman as an IP manager. I just knew for my first journey, I wasn't ready. Absolutely. And I had talked to the agency, and it was kind of just like, well, who's been waiting the longest, and who do surrogates typically like to work with? And it turned out that surrogates were least likely to work with LGBTQ couples. And I was like, well, those are cool people. Like, I will absolutely work with them.
And that's the only ones I would work with.
I know.
So,
yeah. And
everybody
so,
has a wish list, right?
yes. And so going into the second journey, I was very like steadfast in, I know what worked for me. There's no reason I shouldn't stay within those lines again. Like, and then again, it was not to say I wasn't going to be flexible in the future. It was just, it was so early on in my second journey. Like, I don't feel the need to be flexible on that just yet.
Right. Agreed.
But what was very cool is I wanted my IPs for my first journey to have some place in my next journey, right? Like their blessing. And so the agency had reached out to them early on in our postpartum experience and said, hey, we have some other couples that are thinking about our agency. Would you be willing to talk to them as IPs about your experience with us? And they were like, absolutely. And then weeks went by and nothing happened. And then they finally reached out and they're like, hey, they're going to connect us with another couple to talk to about our experience with surrogacy. Do you want us to let you know if they're nice and if we think that they'd be a good fit for you? And I was like, yes. But please know that I'm very picky. And they're like, we know. And they're like, we're always going to be your favorite, right? And I was like, of course, the first is always the favorite, right? Yeah. And so as it turns out, the profile that they sent me was the couple that they had connected them with to talk about. Okay. This all kind of happened the same day. So I'm like, hey, I got a profile. I really like it. Have you heard anything? They're like, yeah, we have a meeting later this week to talk to a couple. And we saw the names and we're like, it's the same couple.
Oh, how cute.
My IPs for my first journey actually had a Zoom call with my current IPs. 2 weeks before I had my match meeting.
Cool. How sweet. So they totally gave their blessing.
They met them first, awesome. And they were like, Ashley, we adore them. They remind us so much of us. And we think that you're gonna love them, and we think that this would be a really good fit for you. And so I was super excited at that point because like my IPs, my new besties, like they were giving their blessing, right? And we had talked about it, like it feels like cheating. They're just like, no, it's okay.
Like, no cheating.
It's a little awkward. We don't want to share you, but like if we have to share you, like, we're okay with this couple. And
how
so so they have a piece in the start of this new journey. And interestingly enough, their clinic here on the East Coast did not approve me.
Oh, how very interesting.
They said, nope, she's had a preterm delivery. Right. So I had thought, I've got a proven surrogacy. I was a great surrogate. I had an amazing pregnancy. I'm in the clear. Nope. Right. First clinic who looked at my records, they're like, absolutely not. 35 weeks? No.
Yeah.
Are
you using the same agency?
I am.
Okay, so you were only approved with two clinics anyway. So why were they sending it to other clinics? I'm a little lost, I guess.
So the IPs that I wanted to match with,
they were at the other clinic.
Their embryos were at this other clinic.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking, now I knew in my first journey, because I'd had earlier pregnancies, like it may not pan out.
Right.
But I was really confident after my surrogacy, having had such a nice surrogacy and a longer pregnancy. Oh, I'm going to be cleared, no problem. 2 days later, they're like, no, 35 weeks, absolutely not. And my agency's like, but you saw that she had a surrogacy that was almost 39 weeks, and everything was fine, right? And they're like, no, we're not approving.
Yep, they won't take the chance.
So the agency met with the parents, and they were like, okay, do you still want to meet with Ashley? And they're like, yes, we've talked to the first IPs. We really want to meet her.
Yeah.
And then they had already, I didn't know at the time, they had already talked to the fertility clinic in Las Vegas about moving embryos.
Moving.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Kind of what I
And
thought.
so
Wow.
they were open. They'd already had some like other issues
Yeah.
with the clinic. They were open to moving the embryos.
Oh, good.
Gosh.
So after they had that conversation, we'd already canceled our match meeting. We're kind of just on hold. They met with my IPs for my first journey. And then the agency was like, okay, we're going to set up a match meeting. So we had a match meeting, and it went really well. They did not ask during the meeting if we wanted to match. So I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
So like, trying to think on it. And they're like, we have 24 hours. So 24 hours goes by. I don't hear anything. I'm like, oh goodness, they didn't pick me. Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
like that's bad. No, they did. It just took a minute for everybody to like get on the same
Get the
page,
information.
differences and all that.
Yeah.
And they were actually like, they'd really love to match with you. And we know we're gonna wait until you're 6 months postpartum. The clinic's gonna review your records. If they clear you on paper, we'll move forward with med clearance and moving the embryos. And I was like, all right. So
How
Well,
exciting.
you have to come back and tell us how that journey goes.
I'm hoping it goes exactly like the last one. But,
Yeah.
Super cool.
Oh my gosh.
so I only carried girls. And they only have boy embryos. So that will be different.
There we go.
So I'm a little excited about that. My first IPs were like, is it a deal breaker? And I was like, no, not at all. It'll just be an adjustment. But an experience nonetheless. It would be excited to go through. And then they have more than one. So I'm a little more
that's good.
With that.
That's good.
And if we do an early 2024, like maybe March transfer, then I can finally have a winter baby and not be super pregnant during hot months, because I've had a baby in May, July, and September in North Carolina, and those are all very hot months. And I am tired of summer pregnancies. I am ready for a winter baby. And so I'm hoping this time next year, we're getting ready to
have a baby.
Well, keep us posted, and we'll send you all the sticky vibes and everything, because how exciting. But oh my God, I'm so happy that your story was so
they're so
beautiful.
Yeah, and the second one's turning out to be very positive.
Yeah, and
it's very cool.
The match makes the journey. I believe it 100%. And I know some surrogates like go into it, and once you've had your heart set on it, you're kind of just like, I'm ready. I want to be pregnant. I want my couple. I want to move through this.
Yeah,
because that was kind of me. Like once I matched, I was like, let's go. Let's get through this.
Girl.
But I know now. Like this time, I was like, I need to make sure I've got the right couple, because you are carrying their child. They're absolutely going to be in your life, and they need to know what you're doing, and you need to be comfortable with it. And I think that was the other thing I really liked about working with men, is that they trusted me wholeheartedly with
they don't know any.
They don't have
a reference
point. And I just remember, like, we talked about vaccines, and they were just like, if you would do it for your child, do it for ours.
There you go.
Yeah,
and we trust you. They weren't asking me what I was eating to be nosy. They're like, we're crazy these days, and like, we're gonna eat it too. And just a very supportive experience. And so
heterosexual IPs can also be that way, but they have to come to the realization and be able to have worked through their infertility, as we already touched on with
and I try to put myself in that perspective, and could I relinquish control and that trust in someone? And it's I can't, like, conceptually I can't imagine that. And so I knew, I was like, I need to be with somebody who trusts that I know my body and I know what I'm doing. And I mean, that was my first eyepiece for me. And so I'm thinking that this journey will be similar, but also now I've expanded their support group, because they've met my IPs. They're in the same country. So I'm really excited for this next one.
Yay. Thank you so much, Ashley. We're excited for you, excited to follow your journey. And thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I know. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh, she's so lovely. What a beautiful journey to be able to have. Like, how exciting, and like how calm and pretty. And now she's got the blessing from her other couple.
That's really cool. That is really cool.
That is cool. Well, thank you, Ashley, so much for sharing your story. If anybody has any questions or they would like to share their story, please feel free to reach out to me at Stop.Sit.Surrogate on Instagram.
It's been another edition of Stop, Sit, Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.